Hello, my name is Shelley Walker. My pronouns are she, her, and I like to make up systems for my friends and family, never tell them about them, and then get mad when they don't follow them. For example, I have this idea that when something needs to go upstairs, some of you are already nodding, I put it on the stairs. And the next person who goes up the stairs carries the thing up the stairs. Rarely happens. Michael's the only one. Or this. Stay with me here. I have this perfect ideal of what my refrigerator should look like and where the mustard goes. In my mind, the mustard is a certain size, and it fits perfectly on a certain shelf. And every time I use the mustard goes back on this shelf. No one else seems to have noticed this brilliant solution to our mustard dilemmas of where the mustard should live. Guess what else? It has never once occurred to me to sit them all down and say, hey, what if we keep the mustard here? I've never once communicated my passion for mustard placement. I have never once asked, can we meet somewhere where we can all agree where the mustard lives? Instead, I get frustrated, I get angry. Sometimes. I don't really get angry about the mustard. Sometimes the stairs thing, though. I have an ideal of what my perfect refrigerator should look like. I have a vision for it, and I share my living space with 4, sometimes 5 other living beings, plus 2 dogs who have their own ideas about where mud belongs. And all of these beings that I live with may or may not share my vision of what a perfect Walker refrigerator looks like. A refrigerator that works for us all. Do you see where I'm going with this? Here at New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, we have a beautiful vision of a world that works for everyone and all creation. And man, if I can't even get 6 people and 2 dogs on the same page about a refrigerator that works for the Walker household, how the hell, I'm scanning for children, how the heck am I going to help create a world that works for everyone with 8 billion other people? How is this going to work? So this is what we're going to talk about today, y'all. How do we work to create lives that work for us? And how do we work to create a world that works for everyone? You with me? Okay, stay with me because we're going to go intellectual here for a minute. We all live in a set of nesting systems. Philosopher Fritjof Capra put it this way, and I love this image, and I just want you to take a peek at this. So we as an individual live within our own system that we create for our lives. We also live in a bigger system of our national economy, our society. We live in the systems of our ecosystem, and then we live in the grand system of Gaia, right? So just hold that idea in mind. These are systems that we live in, and you are inside, you're nested inside each of these systems as they get bigger. As an individual, these systems show our expanding experience of life. We experience life in all of these systems, but they also show all of the places where we have rights and responsibilities. And when the system begins to grow beyond the level of the individual, that's when we have the opportunity to work with other people, and we have to work within a shared construct so that we can create systems working together in agreements about what it's going to look like. Are you with me? Okay. So we have systems. We have systems in our households, whether we communicate them with other people or not. We have systems that may be working for us better or not. And we have systems as we expand our experience out into the world. At the heart of every single one of these systems is divine intelligence. Now, I can hear some of y'all, it might be the voice of my dear daddy in the back of my head saying, there is no intelligence in some of our governmental systems. And I want to be clear about what the difference is between human common sense, human intelligence, and divine intelligence. Divine intelligence at the center of every system is like a blueprint or a pattern of perfection. We've talked about this before. There is a pattern of perfection, of wholeness, of love at the center of every single one of these systems. And we as human beings, our job is to call that perfection forth. It don't show up by itself. We have to do something to make it have form in the world. Okay? So divine intelligence itself is automatically at the center of every single one of those systems, because divine intelligence itself is at the center of you. And you are at the center of your life systems. That divine intelligence that shows up as a template of wholeness and perfection, we call that forward every single time we take a step in love. Every prayer is a chance to call that perfection forward into the world. Every time we choose love, every time we live our lives in alignment with that love ethic that Reverend Shannon was talking about last week, every action that we take that aligns with our highest values is a demonstration of love in this world, and it calls that pattern of perfection forward, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us. Okay. So there is divine intelligence in the system, and it requires us, our love, our actions to bring it into form. And many systems are designed and run by beautifully imperfect humans. And so they get out of whack. These systems fall out of alignment. These systems fall out of harmony. They fall out of balance. And how do you know you're living in a system that doesn't work for you? You can tell by your mental, emotional, and physical reactions to your life. Right? Getting frustrated every time you open the refrigerator? There's a system that's not working for you. Apparently, we need to talk about mustard, Michael. John, I don't know. Feeling a knot right here every single time you turn on the news, there is a system that is not working for you, right? Our bodies and our feelings and our reactions tell us about whether the system that we're living in is working for us. And the principle is the same, whether it's a small system that we have more or less control over, or a large system that we sometimes feel helpless and powerless in. Our bodies are still telling us, our hearts are still telling us whether it's working for us or not. Your life is a feedback loop telling you whether the systems that you're living in work for you. So I can feel, do you feel it in the room? So what do we do? What do we do if the system we're living in doesn't work for us, practitioner Shelley? Whoo, y'all, settle down. Okay. The first thing to ask ourselves is to figure out which level of system it is that we are feeling out of alignment with. That means we bring ourselves fully present into our lived experience and we ask ourselves what's really going on here. Is it really the mustard? Or is it me feeling out of control in my own life, right? You figure out what level of system it is, And then you decide if you can do something about it. Because as the system grows bigger, your response has to change also. Okay, when a small system is out of whack, there are 3 important considerations. C, 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 and C. You with me? Did you get all that? Okay. Number 1, once you have figured out what's really going on, and if it's a small system that you have some direct input in, we're going to start there, and then we're going to go out. By the way, relationships are systems. Okay. Just going to slide that under the table there for you to think about. For those of you who are like, I have no systems. My systems are perfect. Okay. If the system's out of whack, if your body, your mind, and your heart are telling you that something is not working in your life, here's what you do. Number 1, in the system that's not working, is it really not working, or have I not communicated about it? So number 1 is communication. That's the first C. Communication. I have never once sat my family down and said, this is where the mustard goes. Can we all make an agreement about that? Because I feel silly, right? And yet, I have thoughts and feelings about it every single time I open the refrigerator and I have to move the mustard. How silly is it? I don't know, but I get to be at choice about my communication about it. So that's the first C. The second C stands for change. If the system isn't working, do I have the authority and the energy to change it? Y'all, in these times, we are called to be aware of our energy and neither take a step back nor lean too far forward, but to stand in the divine vitality that we are given and to do what is ours to do. Sometimes Reverend Shannon calls me and she says, we need to do this thing. And I know that your introverted self does not want to leave the house. And I'll say, Reverend Shannon, you are 100% correct. That's not an energy issue, because once I am out of the house and we're doing the thing, I feel energized and expanded and excited about living life and being part of this system. So it takes some emotional maturity, we'll call it, some personal wisdom to know when you're in resistance and when you're depleted. So know the difference. So if the system isn't working, do I have the authority and the energy to change it? And if I do, then we come back to communication. It's my responsibility to communicate that change to the world. This is why those of y'all who have been around a while and you've experienced these periods of like big growth in your life, and people are still treating you the same, and it's suddenly making you really upset because you're not the same. This is why, because you haven't taken the responsibility to communicate your new boundaries, how you will be treated in this relationship. You've grown and you've changed, but you haven't yet taught them who you are now, right? So something needs to change when we are in discomfort. Can our communication change? Can the system change? And if the system changes, our responsibility is to make sure our communication is crystal clear about that, okay? It's simple. It's easy when you're thinking about the refrigerator mustard. It gets a little bit more complicated when we move out into these nested systems. How do we work to change a larger system that is making us uncomfortable? Well, I have a story for that. Did you know that the Dewey Decimal System used to classify books in libraries used to be segregated? The Dewey Decimal System, I did not know this until this week. The Dewey Decimal System used to have only 2 classifications for all work created by Black people. Number 325, colonization, and number 326, slavery. Each book by a Black person was put into one of these classifications. A book of poetry, we'll put it in colonization. Along comes a woman named Dorothy B. Porter. Isn't she gorgeous? Dorothy B. Porter was the first Black person to earn a library master's degree from Columbia University, persevering through discouragement and discrimination. As a Howard University librarian, she worked relentlessly to reclassify work within the collection by genre and author, the way all other literature was classified. Her classification efforts sought to highlight and celebrate the roles of Black people in all subject areas like art, education, history, medicine, music, literature. She had an extraordinary 43-year library career, and Dorothy B. Porter changed library systems. I love that story. Dorothy Porter used her authority and her skills and her expertise to work within the system to change it, right? We can also do that within the systems that we live in. We do that every single time we use our voice to speak truth to power. Watch Reverend Shannon's talk from 2 weeks ago. So we can change larger systems that aren't working for us. And how do we do that when we don't necessarily have the authority within the system to make a change? Well, we gather together. The only way to create change in a large system is collectively, together, doing the work. Sometimes change does happen with one person, but most of the time, change happens when we work together for change. Okay. So for a lot of us, what is happening in our country does not feel like a system that is working for us. I think for a long time in this country, there are many, many, many systems that have not worked for lots of people. People who look like me, people who don't look like me, people who believe like me, people who don't believe like me. There have been many systems that are out of whack. And what is happening right now in this period of history is that it has all come to light. All of the things that aren't working are right here, right in our faces, aren't they? And for a lot of us, what's happening is scary and it feels hateful. Now, we here at New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, we hold a vision of a world that works for everyone in all creation. We talk about it every single week. And what I'm feeling and what many of you are telling us is that what you're feeling, what's happening right now, is scary. It's terrifying and it's infuriating. A lot of you are feeling that we are watching the breakdown of the systems that did hold protections for us and for people that we love. And you ask us, Reverend Shannon and I, you ask us, where is God in this? And you've asked us, where is love in this? And right now, I'm going to tell you the hard truth. Love is where you activate it. That's where the love is. There isn't some God out there rewarding and punishing and willing things to happen, just as there isn't some devil out here trying to bring evil to the world. God is in us. God is everywhere that we remember. Love is in all of the places where you decide to put it. It's up to you and me and us to bring God, love, spirit, source to this situation. So how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we keep turning to love again and again when the situation in the world keeps activating our trauma response? Because that's what's happening. The situation that we're in keeps trying to tell us that we're powerless. It keeps trying to tell us to go along and hope that everything turns out okay. Let's just give it a chance to unfold and see if it turns out okay. That doesn't feel right to me. How do we stand for love? Going back to that vision of a world that works for everyone, how do we keep the faith? Well, we do that by remembering that this vision of a world that works for everyone isn't an end point. It's a choice about our values and our behaviors today. It's a statement about how we choose to live right now, not in some imaginary time that may or may not happen for some grandchildren down the road. That's not what a vision is for. That's not what a vision is about. This vision doesn't dictate a dream. It dictates our actions right now. John, can you put that vision? Y'all say it with me. We envision a world that works for everyone and all creation. What does that mean? For you. For you. What does that mean? To envision a world that works for everyone in all creation. What would that world look like? What would it feel like for you when you walk out your front door holding your beloved's hand? Is it safe for you? Is it safe for your neighbor who might not love like you? Right? What does that world look like? What does it feel like? And what are you willing to do today to move towards that vision? Y'all, I know there's a sport ball game coming, so I'm going to keep this brief. A vision isn't a destination. Like, I know I've gotten to Detroit, so I'm there now. I'm done. Because it looks like Detroit, feels like Detroit, smells like Detroit. I must be in Detroit. That's not what a vision is about. A vision is dictating our actions and it's dictating our values. What does that mean? Well, let me tell you what it means to me, because only you can decide what it means for you, okay? I'll tell you what it means for me. My vision of a world that works for everyone in all creation means an end to racism, an end to sexism, an end to classism, a world where LGBTQIA plus rights are not just allowed and tolerated, but they're celebrated and enshrined and never on the table every single time we vote in another administration. That is a world that works for everyone in my mind, right? Michael, what is a world that works for everyone for you? I love putting him on the spot. What is it? Healthcare. Y'all, healthcare is a human right. Healthcare as a human right is part of our shared vision of a world that works for everyone, right? Reverend Shannon teaches us about a world that works for everyone means peace in our lifetime. And every single thing that she teaches, every single thing that she does, every decision that she makes, every word that comes out of her mouth when she's teaching us about this love ethic, it's because this is the vision that she's holding for all of us. This is a world that works for everyone in her mind. Peace in our lifetime. What does it mean for you? What does a world that works for everyone in all creation mean for you? It's time for us to have a spiritual backbone and a spiritual understanding that is grounded in our mature understanding of what this means. A world that works for everyone in all creation, right? Now, what are we willing to do about it? Where are we willing to put feet to those values? How do we do that in ways that acknowledge our energy and our big feelings? And I want you to know one more thing. In this vision of a world that works for everyone in all creation, we might not all agree about the details of what that looks like. But what most of us can agree on is that we want a world that feels safe and loving and kind. There are some of you who politically are far to the left of me who think that that looks really different than what I think it looks like, right? There are some of you who are far to the left of me who think capitalism is for suckers and losers, and we got to get rid of that thing. I think conscious capitalism is an idea that we could explore, right? There are some of you that are far to the right of me politically who think that safety means more guns. I happen to think that safety means less guns. We don't need to talk about the fact that my ideas are based in actual facts and statistics and things. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that today. We're not going to have that debate today. The way we get there might look different, but the place where we are going is the same. This world that works for everyone in all creation is a world that is grounded in this love ethic. There is no other way that I have been able to see a world that works for everyone in all creation. So these things that we disagree on, this is where we get to do that sacred and holy systems building work. Some of y'all are like, Shelley, if you say systems one more time, I'm going to chuck my shoe at your head. It's so important. It's so important because this relational work that we're doing, where we make our agreements about what it's going to look like. Welcome to life, y'all. Welcome to humanity. And aren't we blessed that we still have the freedom to do that, right? So, a world that works for everyone in all creation. Last week, speaking of, this is actually really exciting. So how do we put feet to our values? This is how we're going to end today. How we put feet to our values is by gathering together in the areas that call us forward in passion, where our energy says yes, right? To gather together, both locally and universally online. We gather together to talk about what that looks like. Last week, Reverend Shannon introduced us to the What Is Mine to Do teams here at NTCSL. Listen, these are global teams where together we're putting feet to our values and we're focusing on the importance of DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Let's say it. Let's stop calling it A, B, C, D, E, F, G. LGBTQIA plus rights. Immigration rights. Immigrant rights. And feeding the hungry. This is where we're starting. This is where we're starting here in our community, y'all. We just introduced this last week. We already had over 40 people sign up for these teams, and many of you signed up for lots of teams. I was looking at some of y'all's cards, and it's like, yes, I am here for all of it. Put me to work. And I think that is amazing. So this is how we demonstrate love in the world. This is how we work towards that world that works for everyone in all creation. This is how change happens in the system. We gather together, we pool our brilliant ideas, and we decide how to move forward together. And if you want to be part of the change, there is still time to join. And can I just mention that it's also going to be a lot of fun? Because I know the people in charge of these teams, and they are fun people. The work may look big, but we don't do it dragging our feet to go to that meeting with Sherry Lester. No, we're going to have joy in our hearts. Joy is an act of resistance, y'all. So we're going to have joy while we do the work, working on our food pantry with Sherry Lester, because she is a hoot, I'll tell you right now. For those of you who are online people, hold on. For those of you who are here in the room, if you look in the seat pocket in front of you, behind you, if you're here in the front, there are these little green cards. They look like this. And you can fill it out, put it in the basket when it passes you by. If you turn it over, you'll notice there's something about our community resource directory. Are you going to talk about this when you do announcements, Rev Shannon? Okay, so hold your pens and fill out your cards. For those of you who are online, this is global work. You are part of the team as well. We have an online form that the moderators are putting in the chat box right now at newthoughtscsl.org. Put in your interest, and our teams are going to contact you. You too are going to add to that brilliant brain trust that we're building, and we're going to have actions for you to take as well. So this is for all of us, because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us doing what's ours to do. Okay, I'm going to close by saying this. Change happens in a system when we, number one, communicate our needs. Call your representatives. Number one, communicate our needs. And number two, take action to do something different. But it's really important. John, put up the nesting systems graphic for me real quick. It's really important that we recognize that we are not on the outside trying to force change on something, while the level that we're working at is the level of divine intelligence that is already inside the system. And we aren't forcing anything. We're calling love forth to do its work. And that is why there is power in it. Authentic power. Divine power. We aren't outsiders looking in, hoping that something's going to change. We are the inside of the system, and we are standing in truth, and we are being love, and we are working with the divine order that is already there. Because the minute we think we're powerless, we are. But by the same token, the minute we realize that we're working with infinite power itself at the center of that system, and that this power is already there, all we have to do is call it forward. And anything is possible. Anything is possible. So what are you going to do today with all of that possibility? How are you going to be love today?